Hello friends, my name is Anissa. Welcome to my top 10 books of 2023. This is actually my first video, so I have to get the hang of it a little bit. So excuse the quality or the awkwardness or whatever. But let's just get started. So number 10 is Swamp Story by Dave Barry. I got this book randomly from the library this summer. It was blurbed by Carl Hyacin. He was a kids author that wrote Flush and Hoot. It's like a fun romp through the Everglades swamp in Florida. It follows these three pairs of people and they're all like trying to make money, trying to get out of their situation. And it's kind of one of those books that just like all the people converge and it just blows up at the end. So it was just kind of like a slow build towards like complete and utter chaos. While I was reading it, my emotions showed on my face. Like, that's how you know a book is good, if like you're reading it and you're like, what the fuck just happened? So that's kind of how I felt reading this. So yeah, it was a fun read. Number 9 is Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea by Rita Chang Epig. This book is about pirates and I fucking love pirates. So that's one of the reasons. It follows this woman who she's a pirate and her husband just died. So she feels this kind of new freedom when he dies. It was so interesting. The writing was like amazing. It was definitely political, but it wasn't too hard to understand. It was so interesting. There was like different fleets, the Green Fleet, the Black Fleet, and the like 2 others or whatever. It kind of goes through her past and kind of details like what she's been through to get to this point. The writing is really good. It's very beautiful. And the plot is also so good, and I just loved like the pirate-ness of it. I don't know, I loved it. It was cool. Number 8 is the Everyman's Pocket collection of poems, themed books in libraries. So this one, this was a poetry collection. It was like an anthology from like lots of different poets. I don't read a ton of poetry, but these poems just like perfectly described how I feel about books and about reading and everything. So I'll just read you a few quotes from this because there's like nothing I can say to add on to what it said because it was just like so incredible. The first one is from W.E. Gladstone and it goes, "If you go into a room and find it full of books and without even taking them down from their shelves, they seem to speak to you to bid you welcome." Like, just that, yeah, like if you go into a room full of books, you feel like this whispering, you know, you get it. The second one is from Kostas Koutsarelis, translated by Sapphire, and it goes, "In this mausoleum of words, every page guards an uncertain memory, a dusty immortality." Like, what more do I say? Each time a book is read, it changes and it like becomes something new and it just is like immortal, and I could go on about this for so long. The Everyman's Pocket poems, books in libraries. Mwah. Okay, number 7 is Slooh Foot by Brahm. This book, I read this book in October, I think, because like Halloween-y, I wanted to read some like horror witchy stuff. This was about this girl named Abatha, I think it's Abatha, in like the 1500s or something. She lives in like this small town in the US in like Connecticut, and her town is like incredibly Puritan, yet she's very much like, I want to do what I want to do, and the men there are like, you can't because you're a woman. So, and she comes across like the literal devil, Slooh Foot, like Satan, and he's like this, you know, this goat with horns and hooves and like a man body. They form this like kind of relationship and they teach each other things, and he like shows her how to like be one with nature and have like powers. So it's like she kind of becomes a witch, but it's literally just like harmless nature stuff. Also like he's having an existential crisis, so it's like very existential, but it's also like fun, and the writing is so good, and like when you read it you like literally feel like you're there. It scratched an itch and it was just so good and so fun and so like fuck this Puritan shit. We should just be one with nature, and Satan is having an existential crisis, so fun. Okay, number 6 is Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen. This book was very quick, very fun and queer and weird, which I love. The synopsis was like, there's a gay Bigfoot, like a lesbian Bigfoot, and I was like, sign me up. So I read it, and it's basically just about like all these people filming a reality show, like a kind of like a Love Island type thing. They're in this remote forest, so it's like kind of creepy there, and then there ends up being like a Bigfoot creature there, but she's like a lesbian. Like, it's like, you just have to read it to get it, but the people there know of her, and they kind of like keep her secret a bit. They're trying to like protect her and keep her safe, and like, you know, they don't want people coming and being like, there's Bigfoot here, like, everyone come, you know, so they kind of keep her secret, and then she, you know, things happen, things unravel. I loved it because it was just so like fun and stupid and queer for the sake of it, and I just love that. And it was just like, it's just so silly and fun, and I just really appreciated how she told the story. I love a weird book that's fun, you know? Okay, number 5 is a little bit, I wasn't expecting it to be this good, but it is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sunga Mandana. I mean, everyone talks about this book. Obviously, it's like so good. It's like cozy fantasy kind of thing, but I don't read a lot of romance. Like, I don't like a lot of romance, and I don't read a lot of like cozy fantasy necessarily, but it was so cute. And like, okay, the romance was so good. It was perfect. It was like, it wasn't too much that it was like taking up the whole book, and it wasn't like stupid. The characters were so level-headed. It was just so sweet and like genuine. Basically, if you don't know, it follows this woman who's living in modern day in England, and she's a witch, but she can't tell anyone she's a witch. So she has like this YouTube channel where she posts like witchy videos, but like, you know, people assume she's just faking it. And then these people find her out. They want her to come and be like a nanny, or not a nanny, but like a teacher for these 3 young witches that like don't know how to control their powers and stuff. So she comes to this house in the middle of nowhere, and she's like, okay, whatever. And then everyone that lives there is like so beautiful and so sweet. And there's like a librarian there, and he's like so sweet, and the kids remind me of the kids from Despicable Me, and it's just so fun and cute. Just gave, you know, it made me like giggle, and it was fun, and just overall it was just such a sweet and beautiful story, and it wasn't too like heavy on the cheesiness or cringiness at all. Like, it was just very like, it was like Despicable Me basically, but with a little more romance, and it was just adorable. So I loved it. Okay, now on to the top 4. I have the physical copies of these because I just do. Okay, number 4 is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is like one of those like queer classics that everyone obviously speaks so highly about. And so my brother gifted this to me like last Christmas, I think. Oh my god, this is so good. It was like, the writing, even though it was like written in the 1800s, I like flew through it. I was like, oh my god. It was like short in a way that like you want more, but in like a good way. Like, it's like the perfect length. It's not too long for a classic, so you like finish it and you're like, oh my god, like I want more. Like, that was crazy. Not only just like the queer undertones, but the commentary on like class and beauty and wealth and like morality, and just like this character study of Dorian Gray, the relationships in it, and then also just his existential morality. Like, it just had so many themes that were so good and just drew me in so much, and it was just fascinating, and I just can't wait to read it again because I could read it so many more times and just get something new. So I'll just read a few quotes, or I'll read a quote because like, it's just so good. So it says, "I have no terror of death. It is the coming of death that terrifies me. Its monstrous wings seem to wheel in the leaden air around me. Good heavens, don't you see a man moving behind the trees there, watching me, waiting for me?" It's just so well written. Just the vibes, you know, the vibes of this book were just amazing. With classics like these, like, there's so much to like really dig your teeth into, and like you can just think about it for hours, and like you can like go into like any page and just like pick it apart and just, yeah. So I can't wait to read this again. It was just amazing. I loved it so much. Okay, number three is the freaking Harry Potter series by Redacted. We don't talk about that. But yeah, so I read the Harry Potter series in like March-ish, and I had never read it before. I had only seen the movies once, like a few years ago, so I had to get into it. My girlfriend owns all the books, so I'm like, you know, I want to know all the details. And it hurt a lot. And it was pain, a lot of pain. But it was fun for the first few books, and then it just descended into pain, but I had to keep reading, and I just think about it all the time, and I know the author freaking sucks, but this is just a damn good story. Like, I don't even know. Like, I was just watching one of the movies. It's so good. It's so emotional. Like, the characters are so good. It's just crazy. And I mean, obviously it's classic for a reason. And I just loved it so much. And I'm still heartbroken over it, obviously. So that's that. Okay, we have come to the top two. The top two are like, these books are like the books that I think about every day. They're like part of me in a way that I can't even explain to you. I'll try my best, but like, I don't know. I read both of these. Like, I read one of them in January, one of them in February, so like the beginning of the year, and I'm still like, yeah, those were the books. That was it. So, yeah, so they're just so important to me. Okay, so number 2 is The Wall by Marlon Haushofer, translated by Sean Whiteside. Okay, this book I picked up at my favorite bookstore when I was in Montreal, and I saw the cover, and the cover is what brought me in, honestly. This is not the original cover, I don't think, but I'm obsessed with it. I love it so much. It's so cool. And I read the back, and I was like, okay, sign me up. Awesome. Sounds great. Because it sounds like, from the back, it sounds like kind of like a sci-fi dystopian kind of thing. Basically, this book has no chapters. It's literally just pages and pages of this, just text, blocks of text. Plainly, the plot is that this woman is vacationing in Austria with her friends that invited her, and her friends like go out at night, and she stays there, and then in the morning she wakes up, and at some point overnight there's now a wall, like a bubble, a clear wall, like you can't see it, but it's there, and she goes to it and she touches it and she can't go past, and everything beyond it is frozen. Like, there's a guy there and he's just frozen, and she's on this side. So that's the plot, but that happens on like page 1 or page 2 or whatever. This whole book is her surviving for like a year and a half, I think, and just her unpacking her humanity, and like, we don't even get to know that much about her. She's unnamed. She's just a being, a human, and we know that she like had kids or something, but we don't know anything about her previous life, really. It's just her taking care of this cow and this cat for like a year and surviving only on like what she has in that house, and her just unpacking everything, and just going. It's like the most simple, it's like the most boring day-to-day acts of like literally milking the cow and figuring out how she's gonna do the field to get like food and stuff, but it is so incredible. It literally altered my brain chemistry while I was reading it. I was like, just the writing, the mere simpleness of like what it means to be a human and a being, and her connection over time. She becomes less human because she doesn't talk to anyone. She has no human connection, but she has connection with like the earth and the animals, and that's it. And it just breaks down everything that we think is like being human, and just like into survival, but also just appreciating things. Like, she appreciates like the crows one morning. She's just like, oh, the crows, she notices their patterns and she just appreciates the beauty in that, or whatever. And it was amazing. So I'll read you a few quotes. This is just incredible. Nobody will be with me when I die. Nobody will touch me, stare at me, or press their hot and living fingers on my cooling lids. They won't hiss and whisper by my deathbed and force the last bitter drops between my teeth. Oh, this one is my favorite. Okay. I could simply forget I was a woman. Sometimes I was a child in search of strawberries, or a young man sawing wood, or when sitting on the bench holding Pearl on my scrawny lap watching the setting sun, I was a very old, sexless creature. I'm not ugly, but neither am I attractive. More like a tree than a person, a tough brown branch that needs its whole strength to survive. I don't know how she did this. Like, this was just incredible. Highly, highly recommend if you want to change your brain chemistry. Okay. And my number one book of the year, one of the first books I read this year, and now my favorite book of all time, I love it so much, is Pure Nessie by Susanna Clarke. I love it so much. I don't know how to explain this because it's just more than words. When I think about it like every day. I can't really explain the plot to you because it's one of those things, even before I read it, people were like, go into it knowing nothing, just read it. And so I did, and it's just so hard to explain the plot, and it's not for those who like need to understand it from the get-go, because when you first start, you're gonna be like, there's too many details, what's going on, I don't know what's going on, but you just have to follow the ride. You don't have to understand everything. But basically this follows Pure Nessie, who I thought was that little goat guy, but it's just a guy. This is a statue. It follows Pure Nessie, who, it's his journal basically. So he lives in this huge house that is like never ending, and there's like water, there's like tides in there, and the water like comes at specific hours of the day, and there are columns, and there are like a bunch of statues and a bunch of rooms. So his journal is cataloging, he's exploring this world. You don't know how he got here, you don't know why, you don't know who he is. There's someone else in the world called the Other who talks to him, like has a meeting with him every week or whatever, and he calls him Pure Nessie, so he's like, I'm Pure Nessie, I guess, even though I don't think that's my name, but he calls me that. Pure Nessie as a character is just so near and dear to my heart. He has this natural kindness and innocence that I just connect to so much, because he doesn't really interact with people like the wall, you know. I have a pattern. He doesn't seem to know a whole lot about other people, but he wants to learn, and he's so curious, and he is very skilled in cataloging things, and just the way he talks, it just makes me giggle, and it just makes me laugh, and it's just like so sweet. And you would like never guess where this book goes, and where the places it goes to and the themes it goes to are just crazy. And I know Elias from his channel also like loves this book. He literally named his cat after it, and he was saying that it feels like the most like deep like childhood nostalgia, and I agree with that. And to me it also feels like a dream that you remember from your childhood but can't quite reach, like this dreamland that's like in your head if you're like an imaginative person, this land in your head that you can't fully quite reach, but it's there, and the possibilities are endless, and it's just like returning to your childhood in like the most fantastical way. And it just like, this reminds me of like when I would read a book as a kid and I would just get so involved in it, but it also is just brand new. It leaves so much more that can happen in the world, and it just is incredible. Let me read you a quote. It's in my Goodreads bio, and it just perfectly describes this book. So I saw this quote on like a random wall, also in Montreal randomly, and I just like, I took a picture of it, and it like really just connected with me. It says, "All my life, my heart has sought a thing I cannot name." And when I'm just like in my head and I'm feeling like imaginative, or like I'm reading and I'm like, what is it about reading that like I really love? When you're reading, you're always searching for that thing, and you can never quite reach it, but it's always there, and it's like just out of reach. And that's how this feels, because it doesn't explain everything in a concrete way. It builds upon itself, and it's like this, it opens up kind of, it reopened up that feeling in my mind that I'm just gonna keep chasing, and I just can't wait to reread this for the rest of my life, and it means so much to me. So yeah, I love it so much. That was my top 10 books of 2023. I hope the lighting and everything wasn't too bad and I wasn't too awkward, but I'm really excited to make a few more videos this year, and thank you so much for watching. If you watched, I really appreciate it, and I hope you're doing well. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you have a favorite book of the year, or just whatever. But thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.